Amahiru, Jabba Hawaii, Wilpes, the Wilwi, Kichango, the Shiwichwi, Lachabuni, Amahiru, Simgagat Singamanakan, Kuba
Why Koshkal Halti Peace Nuxil?
Nukadi Kunkunkuliget si Wakasa.
Why Huskald Hall and Chase Squeeze in Scamhiston.
Well, to Ia Dalittle, thank you and welcome to the 2020 BC Assembly of First Nations Annual General Assembly.
2020 has been a difficult year for all of us.
But the Assembly of First Nations has gotten a lot accomplished to celebrate.
Of course, on top of everyone's mind is the COVID-19 health emergency.
The pandemic has touched every corner of this world, including our communities here in BC.
In response, the BCAFN led the development of the FNLC website for COVID-19.
It's a one-stop shop for First Nations communities, individuals, and business owners to find resources to fight the virus and stay economically strong.
We have also been lobbying the provincial government to release data on COVID-19 to help keep our community safe.
And when travel restrictions were eased during the summer and the fall, we publicized which communities were closed to visitors.
COVID-19 has had a huge impact on First Nations businesses.
But the BCAFN has been advocating for targeted, proportional, and accessible supports so that we can have a just and inclusive recovery.
To help communities build economic prosperity, the BCAFN led a number of Black Books sessions on economic development best practices.
We adjusted the new realities of COVID-19 and conducted these sessions through video conferencing.
We're also building a new way to look at economic development
with the First Nations Economic Wellness Index.
This will move away from the GDP as a measure of prosperity and will include alternative indicators and social determinants of health.
The full index will be completed by March 2021.
Under cannabis, many First Nations are taking exciting steps to advance economic participation and governance in the cannabis sector.
We've been pushing for recognition of First Nations' inherent rights to be a part of this new market.
In BC, First Nations are seeking to improve access to manufacturing and distribution of cannabis products,
including farm-to-gate businesses and easier access to Section 119 agreements.
The National AFN Chiefs Committee on Cannabis is also ramping up work on federal First Nations legislative framework.
The BCAFN team also produced a legal memo and a number of tools for communities looking to embark on a cannabis governance and business activity.
The First Nations must be part of the solutions in addressing climate change.
We need investments for immediate action against climate change,
as well as legislative and policy reforms,
and to develop a First Nations climate action strategy.
The BCAFN will start an engagement process to develop this strategy over the winter.
A completed strategy will be presented to the Chiefs by March 2021.
The BCAFN continues to support the Silcotin National Government and the Lidley Tene
with their forced carbon projects that combine climate change action with economic development.
We will be releasing a First Nations forest carbon standard in the winter to support First Nations forest carbon projects.
Under fisheries, 2020 has been another terrible year for our salmon.
Particularly on Fraser, where we saw a record low in return of sockeye.
First Nations communities are doing everything that we can to rebuild stocks, but we need more action from the federal government.
The BCAFN has been calling out DFO mismanagement.
and pushing for First Nations control fisheries management decisions.
We have pushed the federal government to act on the Cohen Commission's recommendations of 2012.
We also support new investments in First Nations owned responsible aquaculture to ensure that the transition from open net fish farms is safe, equitable, and quick.
Under justice, this summer the whole world watched as Black and Indigenous people were continually murdered and assaulted by police forces.
BCAFN continues to stand with the movement to end systemic racism in the police, justice, and health systems.
As all have shown, they are not built to support First Nations peoples.
We are seeing some real progress here in the province of British Columbia.
The BCAFN Chiefs in Assembly also endorsed the BC First Nations Justice Strategy.
We are building an action plan based on this strategy to improve access to real justice for First Nations people in BC.
We also support the current work by Mary Ellen Turple-Lafont in uncovering systematic racism in the health system.
The First Nations Leadership Council had our first town hall meeting with BC Chiefs this past September.
To discuss implementing the Act respecting the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children, youth, and families.
We continue our mission to reform the child welfare system in BC and will be seeking a political appointment at the Joint National Working Group related to the Indigenous Service Canada Protocol.
We are engaging our partners on children and family issues related to COVID-19.
We've been working to secure prevention and respite services for children and families in need, particularly children and youth with special needs.
The BCAFN has also been pushing to maintain access to children in care for their families during this pandemic.
And ensure supports are in place as children start the new school year.
BCAFN continues to fight at the federal level for the implementation of the National Action Plan on Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women.
In October, the AFN Women's Council supported engagement sessions on the National Action Plan in BC.
With the leadership of the BCAFN Women's Representative, Louisa Housty-Jones.
We are confident that the outcome report will be a valuable contribution to the plan and that our communities will be empowered to take action.
BCAFN is also building on the last Women's Dialogue sessions to bring forward a woman and two-spirited LGBTQ strategy.
To implement Indigenous gender-based analysis training for staff and to improve our human resource policies.
We have been through a difficult year, but we have many things to be grateful for.
We will continue to support First Nations in BC and celebrate everything we've achieved together.
Let's continue the good work. White.
So Amaya, thank you very much.
Walaskayaksaqa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, White Linden.
Thank you.
That is all. Kayla Kesla, thank you.